Hurricanes have denied the Highlanders what would have been a famous victory in Wellington. Heading to the last 9 minutes of regular time, the Highlanders were winning by 3 points, but it was All Black and Hurricane halfback Cam Roigard that scored the winning try, what was his second try of the match, to seal a 24-20 win for the hosts. This means the Hurricanes remain in 5th, but are only 2 points off the 4th place Reds, while for the Highlanders, devastatingly, it keeps them once again at the bottom of the competition, and they're now a further 9 points back from 6th place Moana Pacifica. I'm Nick from Nickn'detail, and today I'm going to be reviewing the Hurricanes Highlanders game, which took place in Wellington last Friday evening. So let's get into it. That's right, who would have thought the Hurricanes and the Highlanders would have played out an absolute classic of a New Zealand derby. This is why we love the derbies. This is why we love New Zealand derbies. These two teams, and also just these teams in this country, always tend to put on a show, and man, did that happen in Wellington on Friday evening at Sky Stadium. It would be the Hurricanes that would once again pip the Highlanders to victory. Remember, earlier in the season, the Hurricanes only beat the Highlanders by a couple of points in Dunedin, but this time it was a little bit of a bigger margin, a 4-point win for the Hurricanes, and what a result that would prove to be as well, as they once again really solidify themselves into that top 6 with only 2 regular season games left in the 2025 season. And for the Highlanders, it's once again just a fallen short moment for them, as they once again sit bottom of the table, and once again showing that even though they're at the bottom of the competition, there's still a lot to come from this promising young Highlanders outfit. So what are my thoughts on this game? This was an absolute tight game. Right from the start, where the Highlanders scored in the opening minute of the game, you thought maybe are the Highlanders actually going to put on a result here, but the Hurricanes are just really good at being able to stay in touching distance within these teams, and once again we're just able to keep the Highlanders at bay as well. About the Highlanders, fair play to them, just keep putting on the pressure and just were very consistent, from kicking, but also just their game in general was just really top standard and very much deserving to actually be leading at the halftime break, which they did 14-7, and you thought maybe are the Hurricanes going to have one of these games where they let the occasion, come to them. A big New Zealand derby, the last time these two teams met, it was a close encounter. Could we have seen the Highlanders pull off an upset? Of course, it's not the first time the Highlanders have beaten the Hurricanes in Wellington. Obviously, it's been a long time since, but it has happened a few times, and one more importantly a wee while ago too. But the second half, it's once again just like that. They needed the halftime break, the Hurricanes, because they certainly just kicked into gear, and they just looked like that side that have very much over the last few rounds have looked like probably a very hard team to beat, and very much deserving why. Their second half form of the season has been very impressive. But once again, we just saw the Highlanders able to keep in contention, and very much, as I said, heading into the last 9 minutes, you thought maybe that's the game done when they kicked that penalty there to go up by 3. But the Hurricanes, as they've shown, they can surprise teams on the day, and even though it wasn't the most prettiest of performance from the Hurricanes, they just showed the quality they have in this team, even though it hasn't been probably the season they would have wanted from their standards. And Cam Roigard actually wasn't substituted. Now, there's been a little bit of chatter around Cam Roigard, why the Hurricanes have subbed them off in such key moments. That's maybe been the reason why they've lost, late in games. We've seen that a few times this season for the Hurricanes, where they've really dropped off the last 10-20 minutes, and the Hurricanes decided to keep Cam Roigard on, and proven to be a great decision. You maybe think, should they have done it earlier in the season, and would the results have been different? Well, of course, we're never going to know, but you just wonder if that was a possibility. But Cam Roigard scoring his second try of the match, what proved to be the match-winning try in the 80th minute, and sealing the win for the Hurricanes in what was a very close game in Wellington. So who was my standout player? Well, my standout player is going to be Cam Roigard. 2 tries from the All Black halfback, and we'll be honest, this season he hasn't really been, from my perspective, hitting the marks he was hitting last season. And this is a guy that very much has been, well, I guess even last season we saw when he came up from his injury, was very much tipped to be the Aaron Smith replacement in the All Blacks as that first choice number 9. But he hasn't really had it easy this season. Obviously, it doesn't help the Hurricanes haven't been at the level they were last season, but we're not seeing Roigard really hit the levels he was hitting last season. We'll give him credit over the last few games. He is starting to show that form, and very much why he is deserving of that number 9 shirt. But 2 tries in the game, just had a really great game against the Highlanders. Just a few moments in that match where he probably should have thought otherwise in terms of decision making, but overall still a good performance from Cam Roigard, and this was a tight battle between him and other halfback for the Highlanders, Falau Fakatava, who himself is actually having a good season as well, and you wonder maybe will he get an All Blacks recall come the June international window, but Cam Roigard coming out as the victorious halfback, 2 tries from the halfback, and he is my standout player. Good performance from the Counties Manukau man. So what's next for these two teams? Well, the Hurricanes and Highlanders are both on the road this week. Well, the Highlanders once again back on the road. They face the Crusaders in Christchurch in another big derby. And actually, despite that performance, they can actually, even though, yes, you lost by 4 points and you're winning very much 95% of that game throughout that 80 minutes, I bet the Highlanders playing like that could actually be a trouble for the Crusaders. Now, the Crusaders, we know, got a few injuries at the moment, kind of bringing back demons from last season where they took their injury blows. They had many injuries in that squad last season, as of course we all well and truly know by now. You wonder, could the Highlanders put on a result against the Crusaders? I'm certainly backing them to do so, but of course we'll save it for the predictions video, story, whatever, later on in the week. But based on that performance, I simply believe the Highlanders could be a trouble for the Crusaders. It won't be an easy game. The Crusaders have very much proven to be the top form team this season. Yes, they sit second and probably haven't looked the best over the last 3-4 rounds, but certainly they have been the surprise team this season based on last season's performances. So the Highlanders head to Christchurch next to take on the Crusaders. The Hurricanes are in Brisbane. They take on the Reds, who sit in 4th. This will be, very much based on this performance, will be a very tight game for the Hurricanes. The Reds have been very impressive this season, and of course the head coach, of course, is going to the Wallabies next year to replace Joe Schmidt, so don't expect this game to be a complete easy washover for the Hurricanes. I think they'll certainly have it tough over in Brisbane, and of course both those games take place on Friday evening, so could be interesting to see how these two teams perform, particularly after that tight contest they had in Wellington just gone. So that's going to be it from me. Until next time, I'll see you later.